listening to a podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants with hosts Willie Dills, Chad King, and Ben Lee.
Let's go Giants! SF Giants! Let's go Giants! SF Giants!
Dedicated to the greatest team in Major League Baseball history, the San Francisco Giants, this is Torture Cast.
Everybody, and welcome to the Torture Cast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. My name is Ben Lee, and I am joined by our indefatigable cohort, which today just consists of Chad K21. Chad, who is feeling particularly indefatigable today, given that he's been dealing with the kids all day. Can't blame him on a lovely Memorial Day. How you doing, Chad?
Is that an insult?
That's indefatigable? It's not. It's just really long. You have to be pretty indefatigable to be able to actually continually say that one, so I'm actually very impressed with myself, because I've been at work all day like a not regular person celebrating Memorial Day, so I'm pretty worn out. Pretty much I can manage long words and Giants commentary, and beyond that, just don't ask me to stand up right now or it's over.
You're remembering all the computer engineers and marketing experts that have come before you, that's all.
Right. I'm just trying to follow in the footsteps of lots of other people who didn't bother celebrating and also eating or showering or... Let's not get into that territory on second thought. Why don't we talk baseball instead? Yeah. It has actually been a pretty good week for baseball. We split a series with the Marlins after having them totally sweep us last time they were out here. So we sort of tried to do to them what they did to us, which for a team that is starting to look increasingly like a just above 500 team is actually pretty impressive in my mind. We also got abused a little bit in Miami as well as in some other places. It's been a strange, very up and down roller coaster kind of couple weeks, I think. I mean, what's your take on some of the stuff that's happened over the last 2 weeks that we haven't podcasted?
Yeah, I mean, to me, they've stabilized somewhat in terms of their record. If you look at what they've done the last 2 weeks, they're above 500. They've gotten their overall record up to 26-23. Second place, 6.5 back of the Dodgers, but I mean, they got the best record in Major League, so you can't,
That's they're tough.
Any other division, yeah, it's going to be that. The saving grace, again, we talked about this in the early part of the season, is going to be the second wild card or the 2 wild card system, because the way you look at it right now, there's 3 teams tied for the number 1 and number 2 wild card spot, 1 game ahead of the Giants. So, I mean, I think there's going to be a huge pack of teams at the end of the year. And if the Giants are just going to float around this kind of record where they're going to be, shooting for 86 wins, which is, what they got last year.
Right.
They're going to be right in the thick of it, I think, for the second wild card at least. But, I mean, the Dodgers are really going to have to come back down to earth, I think, for them to catch them. Not that 6.5 is insurmountable. Not at all. I mean, look what happened to the Giants in 93. Well, there's 2010 when they came back on the Padres.
Right.
Because the Padres lost 10 in a row at one point. Right. 93, the Giants were up by 9 games over the Atlanta Braves at the All-Star break. And the Giants played great ball in the second half, but it took, Atlanta and a fire at Fulton County Stadium for them to, light their own butts on fire, I guess, and catch them at the very end. But, the Dodgers really do look like a good team this year. I know it's pretty much the same as last year, but they seem to be clicking, even though I know Lily just went on the DL. But
yeah, but I mean, it's we were initially saying, because look at where they're at right now. They're about 6.5 games ahead of us. They've consistently been about 7 or 6 games ahead of us pretty much the last, I'd say, month or so.
Yeah.
And I think it's worth pointing out that I think that the Dodgers, we kind of thought that they just completely tailspin after losing Kemp. But I think it's safe to say that with one of their major hitters gone, whether it's Kemp, of course, or Ethier, or even A.J. Ellis, I think it's safe to say that they're about a 500 team without their big guys.
Yeah.
But with their big guys, they're pretty dangerous. So as soon as Kemp gets back, if he may already be back, I only pay attention to LA when I have to. But they're a dangerous team. It's just that so much of their danger is really concentrated in one place, that they're playing like we are right now. It's just that they played the Padres out of 6 out of 10 games at the beginning of the season, and those are the 6 games that are ahead of us right now. But we're playing in similar ways at the moment. But at any moment, either one of these teams, more likely the Dodgers, is in danger of suddenly pulling away. And so that's that's going to be the big question is, do the Dodgers pull away? Do they stay healthy once Kemp gets back? Or is it partly the issue that all of them are, so much of their fortunes are tied up in two players and a couple of role players that are right behind them? And so and Clayton Kershaw.
A lot of things really could come into lock and step for the Giants. It's too much to hope for, but hypothetically, if they could get their defense a little bit straightened out, they're still leading the league in errors.
Yep.
If they could continue their hitting the way they have been the last 2 weeks.
Well, if Melky continues his hitting the way he has been the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, he's been kind of a one-man show. There's no doubt. But even guys like Pagan and Blanco, and those guys are really picking it up right now. It's really good to see. And obviously, they're not going to sustain that for weeks and months at a time. But if they can kind of keep that overall tenor, that's going to be great. And if Mr. Freak himself can actually start pitching like an average Lincecum, they've lost 8 out of his 10 starts. You think he's even 500? You add 6 games to their total right there. So if you have a few of those things happening together, they could roll off 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, that kind of thing. Have 20 wins in a month, and if the Dodgers are playing 500, they could be right there with them.
But, I hate to say it, but I feel like somebody's eventually got to say it. I no longer feel like Tim Lincecum is in a slump.
No.
Not one of his mini slumps. I will not say that I think that that anything has irrevocably changed about him. Here I am using big words again. But something's not right far more than we thought something wasn't right, because all of us were pretty much willing to write it off as, well, something's wrong, but that's happened before. But I think we're into probably historic territory for Tim Lincecum at this point. And I think we've stopped hitting the point where we really rely on him to be Timmy. I'll celebrate Lincecum Day with the best of him still, but at this point, I feel like we're in a position where we have 4 excellent starters and then it's Lincecum. Whereas before I would have said 4 excellent starters and then Zito, but it's fluky right now. Mm-hmm. That trend has shifted, and getting into June, the season is nearly it's more than a quarter over. It's nearly a third.
Over a quarter, almost a third. And so, you can still say small sample size, and I do think that Lincecum will smooth out a little more, but I don't think he's going to get back to being Timmy this year. I'm starting to be a little suspicious. It's uncharted territory in terms of the length of his slump.
True.
He's had month-long slumps before, consisting of 4 to 5 starts.
True, and
he has never gone 10
season,
starts
which does
before.
really change the way this looks, because it's beginning the season bad and not improving enough. Mm-hmm. Even though we're seeing improvement, obviously, but we're not seeing a ton of improvement, and that's made things much more difficult, I feel like. But I think you're right. This is uncharted territory as far as slump length. We are familiar with Timmy slumping. It's just that because it started the season, it's really just it's very stark, because his above 6 ERA is staring us in the face every time we go, hey, it's a Lincecum start. Oh my goodness. And it's tough, because it's like the difference between spending most of the year without braces and then getting braces at the end of the year, or starting the year with braces, where everybody just kind of goes, oh, hey, first impression. And it's like when the first thing that you see is that all year, it's making it a lot harder for people, I think, myself included, as you can obviously hear, to put that faith in Tim Lincecum the way they did before. Just because when you start off the year this poorly, especially compared to a rotation that's been this sparklingly good, it makes it really difficult. And it's that much harder.
The only thing that's been consistent about him so far is the one big inning. Yeah. It's really funny. He's not even spreading it out where it's like 2 in the first, 2 in the third, 2 in the fifth, and then he gets yanked. Not at all. It is all in one start. And in fact, the last 2 starts, the last one specifically, I sat down and I watched, and I wanted to see exactly where is he throwing, what problems he's been having. He was touching 93 on the gun. Speed is not a concern. I know people were a little concerned in his 3rd or 4th start. He couldn't crack 90, that kind of thing.
Ever since his 2nd season, velocity has always been a concern with Lincecum, because people have made it a concern with Lincecum.
Well, they've made it a concern, yeah. Right. But you look at a lot of perennial, strikeout pitchers, and by the way, he's still averaging more than 1 strikeout per inning. So he still is a strikeout pitcher.
Right.
They don't have to be pitching, 95, 96, 97 to be able to do that. Could he do that before? Yeah, he could. But we all know that Lincecum is gone. The 20-year-old or 22-year-old guy. I mean, he's not here anymore. He's not touching 97 anymore.
The question is he going to flame out, or is he going to turn into a Randy Johnson? And I think he has the ability to do that, but there's some adjustments that have to happen. And right now, his biggest adjustment is finding his command again, because with that increased velocity, I don't know that we're seeing and you've gotten to see more of his starts lately, so you probably have a better hold on this than I do, but I don't feel like his command is in quite the same place. It's getting back, but he's walking a lot of guys. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, even though he only has the major big inning because he's been working himself out of his own jams, he's pitching from the stretch a lot because he's getting guys on base. He's managing to turn it around so that nothing comes out of it. But the fact remains he's letting a lot of guys get on base, and that's always going to hurt you as a pitcher because it throws off the speed and routine that you're pitching at.
I've been watching it kind of like a high wire act where he's starting and he's kind of balancing and he's like, whoa. And it's like, okay, he's doing okay. He gets a couple of jams. He almost falls a couple of times, but he's still making it across the high wire. He's still on his way. He's still on his way. He's still on his way. And about halfway there to the other side, he just suddenly slips. I mean, he literally just slips and falls, and it all comes crashing down in a matter of 3 or 4 or 5 batters. I mean, it really is rapid. The last game he had, I mean, here we are facing the Marlins, and he lost it for the last 3 batters in the lineup, basically, including the big blow, which was Coughlin hitting a 3-run home run. The dude's hitting 106 coming into the game with 1 extra base hit for the year. Okay? Yeah. He gets him down to 2 strikes, and he just grooves a curveball right waist high, right over the plate. Coughlin's just like, oh, well, thank you very much. I mean, he is missing so poorly in crucial situations. I mean, he's not doing what he used to do. The catcher is setting up, and he's throwing across the target. He's throwing high when the catcher's down. He's throwing down when the catcher's high. I mean, he's just all over the place. And so he can find a certain rhythm some of the time, and he has been able to get out some jams, but he gets to a point where he can't get out. He just cannot get out. And I think as it starts to unravel in front of him, with 2 out base hit, 2 out base hit, 2 out base hit, 2 out, 3-run home run, I think it really is a mental game for him at this point because he's still throwing 92, 93. He's just missing his spots. He's trying to be too fine, and he's admitted that too in his interviews. He's like, I am trying to be too fine.
Right.
I'm trying to make the perfect pitch.
Right.
And that's not what he did before.
Right. Well, I mean, because with his movement, originally he didn't have to, and now I think he's pressuring himself to do that a little bit because feels like that's exactly what he's losing. Yeah. Especially with, guys taking more of his pitches and adjusting to him, sort of that wild movement. If you recognize it a little better, you're going to take that pitch, and that pitch just drops right outside instead of swinging at it, which is what they would have done before. Now they're taking it, and he's giving it more walks that way. And in fairness, I will point out, I think that Chris Coughlin is better than 106.
Well, yeah, he's probably better than 106.
But the fact remains that
hitter.
He's hitting 106 and he's at the bottom of the lineup. And that's not the guy that you want to give up the 3-run home run to unless you're facing like the Yankees. So I'll
they
agree
were still
with that.
leading at that time. They were still leading 3-2, or was it tied 3-3? I can't remember. But anyway,
it just melted down.
That's what put him ahead because the Giants had that lead. But what was interesting is when he was being interviewed after the game, he was interrupted and he was pulled out by the trainer to go into a meeting, and apparently Sabian was in the meeting as well.
Yeah, I think Bochy as well, I believe.
It's still not known exactly what was said, and it was only 15 minutes, and we can always play the guessing game, but it probably wasn't like, hey, how you doing?
No, but
hey,
I do think that...
What are you getting, Romo for his birthday?
Right.
That's not what it was.
Well, Bochy did throw in, though. I mean, at one point he did mention that the meeting was, it was partly not to chastise and blow up at him. Mm-hmm. That it was because I think that Bochy and Sabian also feel like it's in Lincecum's head in a way that yelling at him isn't necessarily going to fix, because I don't think that's, to me, already beats himself up enough. I don't know that he's necessarily is a personality where you're going to be the kind of thing that you do to get in his head, just start yelling at him. I'm not sure that's it. But with that said, he's, there's something going on in his dome. And Bochy and Sabian are trying to find the key to figure it out. And so, now you try the meeting. Maybe next you try something else. I mean, for all I know, he's got options left. Maybe you option him to AAA if it gets really bad. I highly doubt that. I don't think that's what he needs. But, the question is, what else do you try to make this work? And it's hard to figure that out. I do want to actually, though, as long as we're talking about Lincecum having his meltdowns, I do actually want to talk about Bumgarner, who is having a little bit of a rough time himself, but still looking considerably better. I mean, he's looking like Bumgarner, but I think that people are either adjusting to him a bit, or I don't know. Maybe you've gotten a chance to watch more of his starts than I have lately on that as well. But it definitely seems like Mad Bum is he's hitting a little bit of a rough patch, and not in a huge way, because
no.
I mean he's
not
barely
getting tattooed.
He's getting caned almost more than anything. It does feel like a little bit, but he's having a little bit of a rough go of it from the pitcher win column, which I hate, as you well know.
Yeah.
But he's still only allowed, I think you put down here, he's only allowed 4 earned runs in 3 of his last 4 starts. No, he's allowed 4 earned runs in each of 3 of his last 4 starts.
Yeah, I should have specified there. It's
because I was saying I feel like it's been worse than that. No. He's totally just allowed 1 run and we just keep losing. No.
It's not quite like that. But his ERA obviously is still very respectable. It's in the low 3s. That's not a problem at all.
With his start to the season, it's a small wonder, because this is the same thing we said with Lincecum. Lincecum
it's the opposite.
The same thing. Mm-hmm. And but to do it to begin the season, it just looks horrid.
Yeah,
whereas for Bumgarner, he's already looking really like scintillating stats wise. Now he just looks really, really, really good.
Yeah, and he started 5-1 in his first 6 starts, and we were all going, "Oh, could he crack 20 wins? Could he crack 18 wins?" And I know Willie and I were a little bit more like, "Well, no, he's probably going to hit a rough patch." We were guessing around, I think, 15 or 16. But yeah, now he hasn't won since, and he's 5-4 with a couple of no decisions. So he's definitely hit a 3, 4, 5. I think about a 5-start. Winless streak. So he needs to, I shouldn't say he needs to, but he's been a little bit wilder lately. He's been walking a few more guys. He's been leaving his fastball up. I mean, other than that, I mean, he still looks like Mad Bum. I think they're just, like you said, adjusting to him a little bit. I think he had a really good streak, to the start of the season, and it's, part of it's luck, and I think some of it's run out a little bit. But I think this is where he's going to be for the rest of the year. I think he's going to be, which is great. I mean, last year he had a 3.6 ERA, and we were touting how amazing he was. If he could hover around, 3.4 or whatever for the rest of the year, and maybe win 13, 14 games, I'm going to be perfectly happy. And they locked him up for the next however many years. So,
I mean, he's only going to get
better. He's so young.
Yeah, we're not necessarily in a rush per se. We're in a pretty good spot. So I'm not inclined to say like, oh no, the world is falling down. Wow. But at the same time, obviously, it's.
I think Philly fans are freaking out about Halladay in the same way we're freaking out about Lincecum.
It's like, is Doc broken? Nah, probably not.
His stats aren't as bad as
well,
Lincecum.
and he's also a heck of a lot younger. Halladay's more established, but Halladay had his rough years early too. And I mean, Bumgarner is, quite frankly, far beyond what Halladay was doing at about his age. Although Halladay, of course, got better in a hurry, and if Bumgarner gets much better. The mound might crack open underneath him. I don't know. But I would say with Bumgarner, I'm also currently less inclined to worry, but it's the same thing. You want to give it some time. And if this keeps up and the offense isn't the reason, then I'm inclined to worry about it, because we're in a tough spot right now because of the way that our defense is playing. It's a little bit porous, and that makes guys more concerned on the mound. You're going to try and give up fewer ground balls, try and give up fewer fly balls, because you're concerned about the guys behind you getting to them. You feel like you got to start striking everybody out, and so I'm a little concerned about that, just because I don't want guys to start pressuring themselves. And I feel like the bullpen has been a lot better about having that trust in the team than I guess I don't know that. Our bullpen also is more prone to striking guys out because that's just what they do.
Yeah.
But, except maybe Jeremy Affel, who's actually not been bad. But I guess with Bumgarner, I'm not as inclined to worry right now, also because we've seen him hit rough patches and get back out of it. And with Lincecum, whenever we hit rough patches, it seems kind of like everybody says the sky is falling, which I think preconditions us to be more worried every time he slumps. So I'm not going to start freaking out about Bumgarner yet.
No, not at all. No, this isn't even, I wouldn't even call it a rough patch. I mean, honestly, 4 earned runs and 3 of his last 4 starts. He's going to be just fine. I mean, it's going to be okay. But I do want to focus on the hitting. Their hitting is absolutely
I was just thinking the same thing. It's absolutely discussion topic worthy lately, which has been kind of an interesting
this
change
doesn't
for
make
us.
any sense. Yeah, we're worried about pitching for the San Francisco Giants, and at this point, praising the hitting.
Yeah.
I mean, overall as a team, they have.
No, it really is a bizarro year.
It is. It's totally bizarro. But of course, the highlight is the milkman himself, and he has been delivering milk like crazy. He had 4 hits yesterday in Florida.
Probably a lot of unexpectedly pregnant wives out here in the Bay Area.
He had another one today. I mean, I was looking at his line, and obviously he's number 2 in the NL at 368, and he's not far behind David Wright. Which that's another surprise this year, by the way. David
Wright has, move those fences in? I'm in such a good mood. Wah-bah!
Yeah, I know, exactly. But 74 hits in 49 games? Are you kidding me? That's outrageous. That's a hit and a half a game.
Per game.
Seriously. Game. What the hell?
Yeah. Although, I mean, if you're going to hit something like 368, that's how you got to do it. Your stat has to look something like that.
I know. I love that, the prognosticators, and they're joking about it too. He's on pace for 247 hits this year.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, clearly he's not going to hit 368 for the year. Play that many games and hit 240 hits.
Right. But it is really nice to see that he hasn't turned back into 2009 Melky Cabrera. Like that's what everybody was kind of hoping or expecting would happen. And somebody pointed this out. I wish for the life of me I can remember who wrote this post right now. It might have been Barry, a sports guy, but no, I don't think so. Anyway, Melky Cabrera, everybody sort of like on the East Coast who watched him with the Yankees first is sort of like, well, he got worse, then he got worse, then he got worse, then he got worse, then he snuck over to Kansas City and quietly got a heck of a lot better.
Yeah.
Then he came to San Francisco, and boy, and it's just kind of like, well, is this something that happened because Yankees? Is this something that happened because Melky? Is this something that happened because baseball? And I don't know what the answer is, but good for him. And it's been really nice to see that he's so far been the most consistent cog in the offense when everybody sort of, when we picked him up, said, well, he'll be an awesome number 2 hitter, which I still would have, if I had looked at his stats up until now, I would have said, awesome, perfect number 2 hitter. Mm-hmm. And now he's somewhere between 3 and 4 for us all. Like, he's our number 3 hitter with Pablo gone. I wouldn't have expected to say that about Melky Cabrera at the beginning of the season, and I'm kind of excited that I can. He would be a number 3 hitter on a lot of teams right now, and that's unexpected, I think.
I cannot remember who I read this on Twitter today from, but they said the way he's hitting right now is like Will Clark in his prime. And I think that's a perfect analogy because he's just got a little bit of pop, not tremendous, but, moderate pop. But he's just going with the pitch. He's got a sweet swing, and he's delivering those base hits and the extra base hits. I mean, how many triples does he have this year and doubles and everything like that? And I mean, that really is what Clark kind of reminds me of. I mean, granted, I'm biased, and he's my favorite player of all time. But I think he hit 25 home runs at most. That was his career high for home runs. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Boy, that'd be embarrassing if I'm wrong. It actually might be 35. Anyway, that's the kind of guy he's kind of molding out to be. He's going to probably hit in the 320 range for the year, 200 hits. Mm-hmm. He might approach 80, 90 RBI and 20, 25 home runs. I mean, that's solid for this pickup that they got.
Yeah, well, I mean, for how much what we gave up for him.
Yeah,
Sanchez was big, but for us, he was clearly going to his downside. Whereas Cabrera had an unexpectedly up year.
And on the DL again.
Moment of silence for Jonathan Sanchez.
Yeah, that was a moment of silence for him.
For Jonathan Sanchez's health. But Melky Cabrera was on a huge uptick, and the Royals said, well, then we got to trade him now while his value is high, because realistically, how could they know for certain that Cabrera was going to have a similar year next year? Because he hadn't in the past. And so it was like fluky for the Giants, who really needed to offload somebody like Sanchez, who had tons and tons and tons of upside, but had just failed to show it for the last several years. And so it was sort of both teams making a trade because they had to. And I think that we didn't expect that the return on that would be this Melky Cabrera.
No.
So extra points, because we usually aren't the best at evaluating hitters, and I did not see that coming. We might have gotten lucky, but I don't care.
How many players did we send to the All-Star game last year? Granted, because Bochy was the manager, was it 9 or 10?
Well, Bochy being the manager helped, but since the players helped choose some of the pitchers as well. So let's see, 3 starters, Three starters, a closer, and Pablo. So 5.
Oh, it's 5, right? No, I don't know why I was thinking 10 there. It was 5, right? But it was the most in.
I don't think anybody's.
No, that's too much.
It was
course.
really the
Yankees have had like 7 and 8 before, but
gosh, most in years. I do not actually know. No, I don't know what the last time that we had 5 was.
Well, I'm just curious this year. I mean, he's not going to be voted in by the fans, Melky. He's not, the household name. It doesn't matter if he'd have to be hitting 500 to be voted in by the fans.
Right, but I see it very likely.
No, I don't see a single Giant being voted in by the fans. So It's going to be coming down to the player vote and the manager selection.
So who manages this year? Because Luis
retired
on top.
Yeah.
So it's like, is it the manager of the next runner-up, or do they just give it to Mike Matheny? Because that'd be awesome from Matheny.
I actually haven't figured this out. I haven't really looked.
I haven't either. I mean, they only just, they've been talking about the All-Star game. They only just announced that the 2013 one is going to be in New York.
Yeah.
So I might have to try and put plans together to go if I still have any money by that point. We might have to try and make an outing out of it. But, with our All-Star situation right now, I feel like if anybody has any chance of going to the All-Star game on our team right now, it's Buster Posey. Because he actually, if anybody, and that's saying a lot. Because if you look at other stars out there right now, I'd say it's much more likely that Yadi Molina goes.
Yeah.
Pretty much, or Brian McCann, despite the fact he is having an off year for Brian McCann. Because he's Brian McCann. As far as other major catchers right now, I mean, you look at our division, Miguel Montero is probably the other likely one. But I feel like, and I'm probably totally missing something right now, like a complete idiot. But in my mind right now, I feel like the biggest names at catcher in the NL are, Montero, McCann, and Molina. Can't believe I just blanked on that.
Yeah, that's true, though. It's true, though. By the way, La Russa, I don't know how he missed this. It was announced more than a month ago. He's actually coming out of retirement solely to manage this game.
Excellent.
So I guess that's all been cleared by Major League Baseball, clearly.
Well, I mean, it's,
so he's coming out to do that. And he will have the say in the roster as well. So he's going to have those decisions to be made as well.
See, my question is, does this in fact set back any eligibility for the Hall of Fame?
I wouldn't think it would. I'm sure he managed an exhibition game. Well, actually, I guess it's technically not exhibition anymore, right? Because it actually counts or whatever. No, but you are going to see a lot of what traditionally the managers do is they reward several of their players, who might have driven them to a pennant or World Series by giving them some, a nod here or there. And that unfortunately can affect other players that might be more deserving statistically for this season. But even managers come out and say, hey, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have gotten our ring last year. So, they gave him the nod. That's just the way it is. So
we'll see. I'm curious if who La Russa is going to choose as a result, if he's actually going to be the one in charge. That should be interesting.
Back to the hitting, Angel Pagan, we were, I know I wasn't really high up on him, and certainly in spring training, his epic failures in spring training, and even at the beginning of the season, continued that cold streak through the first, 3 weeks of the season. He is now hitting .309 for the year. And he's hit safely in 35 of his last 37 games. I mean, the guy has completely turned it around. He looks like a completely different ball player right now.
Yeah, he's really kind of settled back down. I mean, I think that he needed a little time to get used to playing regular games again. And, he just seems a lot more collected and confident at the plate than he did at the beginning of the season, which may just be because we're seeing him hit runs and things now. But, I definitely feel like I'm a lot more comfortable watching him on the mound now than I was when he first came back up. So I think that's helped out a lot. I definitely feel like he is just sort of like when he gets to the plate, maybe this is because he's hitting right now, but he seems more dangerous. So
yeah, I have confidence in him, and he's putting that number 5 role too.
Yeah, and I think what's been nice is that
he's been hitting really well in that slot, which I would never have thought of. That I mean, he's definitely not your prototypical 5 hitter, but it's working right now.
Well, and I mean, right now he's taken the 4 a few times because he's basically the best person to put into that cleanup spot with everyone else gone. So it's kind of
half your bench missing.
Yeah. Now that everyone is hurt, but, you know, I would say my big surprise has been Pagan in the 5-hole, which actually makes a lot more sense to me. I was talking about this on another podcast, which I'll talk about later. I actually did a spot on Curse of Benitez's podcast, the Cobcast. We talked about a lot of this stuff, but I pointed out, you know, Pagan was not playing like a prototypical leadoff hitter. We had him leading off because we felt like he would be the better batter, and because he's fast. He's got wheels, he steals well. It made sense to put him in first, but he doesn't have the eye for it. He will swing at the first pitch. He will often do nothing with the first pitch when he swings at it, and when he does work a count, it's often very unexpected and impressive. That actually, in my mind, makes him a better suit for the 5 because he is actually hitting. And that, I think, having Gregor Blanco around to actually slip into that leadoff spot and put some speed ahead of our better hitters was a huge deal, because that actually let us move Pagan, who's hitting very well, back into a 5 spot where he can concentrate more on hitting and less on trying to help the guy see a lot of pitches when he first comes up. And I feel like that's let him take more of an aggressive approach without forcing the issue. And Pagan has been doing surprisingly well since moving to the 5. And at least that's what it's looked like for me.
Well, I mean, I think it's worked in conjunction with a couple of other moves. Obviously, like you just mentioned, Blanco getting the majority of the starts at leadoff now. He's started, 20 of the last 25 games. He's hitting over 290 in those games and over 400 on-base percentage. And today he stole home, which was pretty sweet. Right. Oh, and he made that amazing catch to close out the game, which was not an easy catch at all. The Diamondbacks put on 2. The tying run was on first. Who was up at the plate? I can't remember who it was. It was, I believe it was a righty. Anyway, he had 2 strikes, and he launched one into right center field, almost to the arcade, and Blanco just was streaking towards that corner, put up his right hand and just snagged it. It wasn't quite basket catch because it was more of a line drive. But I mean, if you have, I can't say Shearholtz wouldn't have made that play, right, but I'd say your average right fielder would have had a really tough time making that play, 5 out of 10 times. And that absolutely would have tied the game. Most likely would have been a triple and put the go-ahead run on third. So, I mean, he's been a spark plug. But not only that, but Brandon Crawford, he's still been struggling overall for the year, but he's been doing much better in the 2-hole. And again, way too small of a sample size. But he is hitting over 300
I was gonna say
in that slot so far. And there was an interview with him a couple of days ago, and they were asking him about hitting in the 2-hole and does he like it more. I mean, he didn't hold back anything. I mean, he wasn't like, I'll do whatever I want on the team, or I'm not do what I'll do whatever I'm assigned to on the team. But yeah, I mean, he basically was saying, look, I'm used to hitting the number 2 hole.
Right,
this is where
what I've
been in my, in the minors. This is what I've always done. Right. And I don't like hitting in the 8 spot because it's right before the pitcher, and you see a lot of junk and curveballs, and it throws off my timing. And that's it, plain and simple. And it's like, well, I mean, it's not just the pitch selection, but his confidence as well. I mean, if it's getting into his head that he's going to be better in the 2-hole, well, he's probably going to be better in the 2-hole.
Right, because confidence, and especially the way that baseball works, is so much about psychology. That makes perfect sense to me. He says, well, I've always been in the 2-hole. I feel more comfortable in the 2-hole. Then we're going to see better out of him in the 2-hole. But I wasn't expecting this much better. I mean, 273. Since he's been, it's only 10 games, like you said, so we can't say a lot, but I mean, 10 games, 12 hits, 3 doubles, 7 RBI, which RBI, that just depends on who gets on ahead of you, but, 7 RBI from the guy in the 2-hole, not bad. 273, 327 on base percentage, all right. I mean, we're seeing passable numbers for a 2-hole hitter out of him, and that, I think, has been probably the most important thing, and the most impressive thing is nobody really expected him to be a 273 hitter. I don't think he's going to end the season as a 273 hitter, even if we just look at his production out of the second spot in the lineup.
No.
But this isn't like coming back and saying, well, guys are going to adjust to him. He's been playing, and he's just changed to another spot in the lineup. But this could be just like Aaron Rowan. You put him in leadoff, and he blows up and then totally turns back into Aaron Rowan. It could be, a reverse slump, just a big streak and a surge. But at the same time, like, it's not like anything has changed about Crawford other than his position in the lineup and his mental makeup about that.
Right.
So I think that there's a great chance that he does a ton better in the 2-hole than in the 8-hole. I don't think it's going to be as drastic as it is, but hey, I mean, this is pretty much what we were looking for, right?
Absolutely. And a lot of the rest of the lineup kind of built itself. It'll be interesting to see what happens when Panda comes back in a couple of weeks. But one of the biggest holes in their lineup
Crawford's
right now,
233. That's like what we had asked for at the beginning of the season. We said, you know what, I'll take 220.
We were talking 220, 230.
We were talking 210 as long as he had good defense. And since he hasn't quite done that, I would say 220 or 230.
Yeah. He's shown flashes and then just completely failed on the most basic of plays that have cost. He's caned Kane once and
only once.
Cost a couple of games. But second base, that has been probably the biggest black hole this year. We have Burris just failing miserably. Terrio huff for an inning.
Yeah.
You just have...
It would be a total offensive sinkhole, and it probably would mean we'd have 2 pitcher spots in our lineup, except that we have Bumgarner and Kane to do the hitting. So that's actually been doing all right.
Not including today's game, and I think Burris did have 1 hit. Combined totals for whoever was playing in second base is a 198 average.
Ouch.
198. I mean, come on.
Ouch.
I mean, that is not much higher than the Giants pitchers have totaled all year long. I mean, honestly, it has been an absolute sore spot for them, and unfortunately, Freddie Sanchez is nowhere close to coming back. And in fact, at this point, I don't even know if you chalk it up to, maybe he'll get a handful of starts at the end of the season, just to remember what Major League hitting is like, even if he gets to that point. But I guess he had more inflammation and flare-ups in his lower back, more epidurals.
Yep. Yeah, it's he is increasingly just, like that is not going to be a thing this year.
Yeah, and it seemed like, at least he was moving in the right direction with some of his rehab starts in San Jose, which I was trying to get to, just couldn't quite do it. But, I don't know. I mean, the guy is
a setback is a setback.
A setback is a setback, and I know the Giants are very frustrated with it, but... Yeah. I don't think they have any immediate fixes or, aside from a major trade before the deadline, if Sabian and company think that's a viable spot to upgrade to make a playoff push.
Yeah. And my biggest thing is if it's the second wild card that we're pushing for, the way that this team looks
for now, a 1-game playoff,
the way that this team looks now, in my opinion, you do not use the second wild card as an excuse to trade the farm for a second baseman.
Yeah.
In our case, if we're getting a second baseman, because of where we're at, and because I don't think Charlie Culberson or Joe Panik are really in a position to be ready for the majors soon, I say you try and get somebody that either you think you can sign to another year or that is going to be around for a while, because we don't have any second base depth.
Nope.
Like, Emmanuel Burris is our second. Like, we're at the point where we're using the depth for the second base depth for the second base depth. Like, we've pretty much given up on having second basemen in our organization. It's sort of like, that's cool. We're going to convert shortstops and first basemen as much as we can possibly do because they hit better anyway. And which is actually kind of, if you look at it, that's sort of what we've been doing. It's really not pretty. Brett Pill had some time at second in the minors. Aubrey Huff ended up at second one day. I mean, pretty much our only like second baseman is like Charlie Culberson, which that was fun, and I wouldn't mind seeing him again, but not yet.
Yeah, it's kind of opposite of our first base problem.
We've got lots of first basemen, and we are turning our first basemen into outfielders so that we don't have so many first basemen, and that isn't entirely working either. You remember when we used to do the opposite? Daniel Ortmeyer and John Bowker? It's like, let's take our outfielders and turn them into first basemen. It's really funny the things that this team does to try and get all the good hitters together, because we just can't find enough good hitters spread out on the diamond. They're all usually in one place.
Whatever they can do.
It's true. But I do want to say, though, I would agree trading for a second baseman at the deadline if we are in a competitive position seems like a good idea as long as we don't do anything stupid.
Mm-hmm.
There are previous years where I would have said, you know what, we can do something marginally stupid. Not as stupid as we usually do, but, that's what it is.
It's tough. I mean, I didn't really actually think about the trading deadline and how every team, which there are going to be more teams in the mix now.
Yep.
Are going to think about this
anymore. It's pretty much going to, your rebuilders are looking like,
I think it's potential
Chicago,
that,
Houston,
half to 2/3 of the league may think they have a shot at the second wild card, right? I mean, because you're talking about one of the leagues might be having a second wild card at 83 wins or 82 wins or something like that. I mean, it's possible. It's possible.
I mean, and we already pointed out how much lower the bar is going to get for that second wild card. And, you could have a stark contrast. You could have a 103 win Giants type season, and you could have somebody squeaking in at like 82, just depending on how the rest of the league does.
And so it is interesting to think of yourself like, well, the shot about or the chances of us making the division are pretty much slim to none. But hey, look, we're in the mix for the wild card, either first or second. So are we really going to bet the farm that
on a 1-game playoff?
And if it works, it gets us a 1-game playoff. And if we lose that one game because some guy had a ball go through his legs, or there was a 1-pitch mistake, that's it. We just lost our farm, our prized, farm guy for one game that we lost.
I'll throw
so
this
it really
at you.
does change the dynamic.
So I'm not going to get into who would you trade for, because that gets really unrealistic very fast. But what's sort of your limit on willing to trade? Like, how far down in the system do you go? Because with a team like this, I think it's safe to say the thing that we most likely trade is probably pitching. Mm-hmm. Probably pitching, maybe first base, maybe outfield, unlikely. I mean, obviously, right away, Gary Brown off limits, Joe Panik off limits, Heath Embry off limits, in my mind. Mm-hmm. They may, people may completely disagree with me on this.
Well, no, they have some catcher depth in the minors too.
There is certainly some catcher depth. Out of the catchers that we have, I am inclined to say at this time Tommy Joseph, off limits or extremely good offer.
Right.
Andrew Susac, actually very good defensively, which a lot of people had ragged on him before, which I think is interesting. I think that from what I'm hearing, he's actually a very good defensive catcher. So I'm inclined to say hesitant on Susac as well. But man, that doesn't leave a whole lot of guys. Pitching wise, I mean, that's like Eric Hacker, who's getting older. He's like 28. Not a lot of teams are going to want to push for that. Surkamp's injured, so you can't trade him right now anyway. Was it like Josh Osich and Kyle Crick? I mean, that doesn't leave you a whole lot of depth to trade in the pitching area. So it's kind of like, it's a question of what would somebody take and what do you think we get back for that? And I don't know what kind of second base that actually is a solution that we're looking at getting back for something like that. So that's kind of why I hesitate to say, like, hey, let's bet the farm, because what in the farm is suitable to go that you're not going to have the rest of everybody blow up about? I mean, the only other thing I would be willing to say at this point is Whiteside or Sanchez.
Yeah, I mean, Sanchez obviously is the more intriguing option for any other team.
Certainly.
The problem is you don't want to take away too much from... I mean, if second base is going to hit 200 the rest of the year and they're going out, and I'm sorry, I don't have any second baseman on the top of my mind that they would potentially trade for, anyone who's kind of in their contract year. But if you get someone who's hitting, well, let's say 275... they're not going to get anyone who's hitting 350 or anything crazy like that. But
no,
you're getting someone that's hitting 275 with average defense. Second baseman hitting 275 over 200, is that probably going to win you 1 or 2 more games for the rest of the year? Probably. I mean, it's really hard to compute, but I mean, certainly there are going to be situations where they're going to get on base and score runs that could make the difference, or drive in runs late. So I think it's very possible that one acquisition could make a difference of a couple of games, and that might put you into that wild card position. But again, do you risk giving away too much for that one shot? Some people would say absolutely. It's like Vegas. I mean, how else are you going to get a shot? I mean, if you don't pull the string on a trade to maybe get those couple of extra wins to get you into that wild card position, you're not going to even have a chance anyway. What are you going to do? Playing for next year? Nah, try it now. Maybe you get lucky. Maybe it's the other team that drops the ball and you win and go into the next round.
Right.
Maybe that starts the series of wins, just like 2010 propelled them through.
I'll put this out here. Like, looking at the records right now, I mean, pretty much as far as rebuilding goes, San Diego, Chicago Cubs, maybe Colorado.
They had lost 12 in a row before today or yesterday.
That's really depressing, but I've got a good friend who's a Chicago Cubs fan, and I always just feel really bad for him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I really want them to be competitive soon. Not at our expense, but otherwise, I really want them to be competitive soon. It ain't yet, though. And, I mean, if you look at the National League East,
everybody is above 500, by the way.
Everybody is above 500. The highest is 29 wins. The lowest is 26.
Yeah.
I mean, we have 26 wins. So, I mean, we actually have a slightly better record than Philadelphia because we have a game in hand on them. But they're the back of the NL East, and we're second in the NL West.
Mm-hmm.
There are, you look all the way down. I mean, teams that are competitive right now: Washington, Miami, New York, Atlanta, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, St. Louis, Pittsburgh, Houston, maybe, Milwaukee, barely, LA, San Francisco, Arizona. If all of these teams are competitive, unless somebody's got somebody who's eaten up a lot of bench space who is not valuable to them as a pinch hitter, who trades?
Yeah. It's true. You've expanded the potential for wild card teams. So you not only have bigger demand from teams that might be in the hunt, but now you have less supply because those teams, of course, are not going to give away those particular positions,
Right.
Unless you have two competitors that have interchangeable parts.
To find.
It's possible that two teams have interchangeable parts. Like,
right.
Let's say, I don't know, the Phillies or someone has a second baseman. I'm just kidding because they lost that league.
They've got Freddie Galvis right now, which is not really a second base solution.
No, not at all.
Well, for us, but
as a funny example, they had something to offer in exchange for a catcher or a pitcher or something like that. It's it's a possibility. But.
Right. Well, if it's an area of depth and an area of depth, okay, but we're not. I feel like this team right now would be willing to move Sanchez off the bench if they feel like they have somebody else just as good off the bench they can bring up. Sanchez has been really good off the bench, though, and it's difficult to see the team giving up a valuable bench bat who's also a backup catcher unless there's something very suitable to get in return. On the other hand, another team who's having a lot of difficulty finding a decent catcher, say Washington, which is really unfortunate. I really hope Jesus Flores didn't get hurt worse than it sounded like he did yesterday, but I haven't gotten to look into it.
Yeah.
Just between Ramos and Flores, they have like nothing left. And so if anybody's going to go looking for a catcher, Washington's probably it right now. But Washington, on the other hand, like second base, what, Danny Espinosa? No, Espinosa's, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I was mixing it with Danny Valencia for a second. But yeah, Danny Espinosa. But he's their starter. And then beyond that, I don't know what we're looking at as far as depth. So it's like, I don't know. There aren't a lot of teams that are going to have a spare second baseman lying around. Like, second base isn't a position that's easy to find right now, and so I feel like that doesn't mean Sabian won't kick tires and pull off some crazy trade, because he does that, and we'll just kind of turn around and go, "What in the? Okay, hi Jeff Keppinger." But it's this.
Kind of wish we had him now.
Right now I would kill for Jeff Keppinger.
Yeah.
Which is something I didn't think I would say, but I mean, Keppinger might even have better range than Ryan Terrio.
Yeah, no, Terrio is definitely not looking very good.
That's debatable, but he's taller. Anyway. That's enough trade talk. It's all highly speculative. It always is. I'd actually like to jump down to our tweet at me, bruh segment, though, because you had an awesome one here. So I would love to have you expound on what you dug up.
All right, so anybody out there who has not seen the Milkmen,
they're amazing.
With the E, they are fantastic. They are complete with the traditional circa 1950s Milkmen outfits, and they show up to a lot of. What was that?
Caps included.
Oh yes, caps, and then I guess they have bow ties now, but they're going to be getting orange bow ties. I've read, so that's going to be
perfect.
Very fantastic. So
I
anyway,
think they might
show
have
up
had
games.
the orange bow ties by the time I saw them, because I walked past them and I didn't realize at first. I was like, what is this? And then all of a sudden I realized they all had 53 on the chest of their shirts. I was like, oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, no, it's pretty fantastic. So anyway, they're kind of blowing up on Twitter, because they've gotten some, I wouldn't say national pub, but local press pub. So that's how things go viral. But anyway, they tweeted earlier this week, at the Milkmen, would like to thank at Ratto CSN, that's Ray Ratto for those of you who don't know, for being one of our biggest fans. Can't wait for him to get into a Milkman outfit. and immediately thought of a big
oh my
300-pound milkman delivery, and it just sparked images I care not to.
You know what? There would be a lot fewer pregnant women in that part of the city. I'll say that.
Yes, absolutely. So, no hate against Ratto. He's kind of a brilliant, witty man.
I'll hate on Ratto, but only sometimes.
I know he would destroy most of us in a cage match of verbal exchanges.
This is fair.
Yeah.
I would need a lot more time to think, and that's not
not give me 5 minutes, Ray. I'll be right back.
Hold on. I'm going to come up with an awesome comeback by tomorrow.
Yeah.
I actually picked one. I actually posted right before we started. It said, hey, we're going to be doing a special Memorial Day edition of the Torture Cast. And Cursive Benitez actually responded, I would like to say that the San Francisco Giants are a baseball team.
You know, technically, I think they're a baseball club. So I don't know if he's actually 100% correct there.
That is a tough one. I'm not entirely certain that. I think that if Erin were here, she would probably say that they actually need to work on their baseball. So it's hard to say there either. If only they could baseball better. We had a great discussion about that in the break room at work today. Well, you know, if only they could baseball better. If only they would win more games, they'd win every game. But
yeah, you hear it used as an active verb in basketball, like that guy's a baller, you know, or something like that.
Well,
but no, it doesn't work so well in baseball.
He'd be a baseballer, which is
baseballer.
No, I can't do it.
Okay.
Yeah, they have the skills to play the pills. I don't know. But the other reason that
pills or something. Yeah,
I'm sure we've made that joke before. If we haven't, somebody has. With worse sense of humor than we do. But the other reason I wanted to bring up Cursive Benitez is actually because, like I said, I was on his show recently because I spent the weekend in Minneapolis, which was fun. I was visiting some friends that I met when they were out here, and they sort of said, hey, you want to fly out here, crash on our couch, explore Minneapolis? I was like, yes. It actually so happened. It was pretty awesome because I looked, as I do every time somebody asks me to go to a place, I look and I see when my sports teams are going to be in the area because
that's pretty cool.
Why not? And so, and when else do you decide to go? Now that I don't have school anymore, it's sort of like, well, whenever work lets me. If I put in the request early enough, they're going to let me do that outside of major holidays and winter holiday season. So sort of like I have this entire, it's like having a white room and saying, all right, now make it your own, and going, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? So I looked, and actually the Tigers were going to be playing in Minnesota against the Twins on my birthday. So I said, okay, I'm pretty sure that's a sign. So I'm going.
You must go.
I did, and I did.
Yep.
It was fun. Target Field is very nice. It's gorgeous, and it's really nice that it's an outdoor field. It's no longer the Metrodome. It was complete with a rain delay and everything.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, they don't have a dome there, a retractable roof. So when if it's going to snow in April or October, it's going to do that.
And it sure did. Well, it rained in May, but
right. Yeah.
It was, the rain delay wasn't too bad, other than the fact that it started with "Call Me Maybe," so I had that song stuck in my head for the next 2 days straight.
Oh. No, man. You are the second person to mention that song today as an earworm. And
it is an absolute earworm. It's not the worst earworm I've ever heard. I will say that. I've heard much worse. But stop it.
Sorry.
Stop it.
There you go, listeners.
Stop it. But I will say, though, that I mostly like it because of the Harvard baseball team dancing to it in a viral video. So if you haven't looked that up, I'll try and remember to put it in the put a link in the post. Anyway, so Cursive Benitez actually lives in Minneapolis. So we actually ended up getting together at my friend's house, and we did an episode. We sat down, we talked for about a little over an hour about everything, including some really awkward questions that I strongly encourage everyone to listen to and then not judge me for. There was a question about baby back ribs from Authentic Babies. That sort of led to the... It's very funny because if you ever follow at Cursive Benitez, which I suggest that you do carefully, because he'll post a lot of really ironic retweets that are very painful and eat your soul. He also makes a lot of really hilarious comments and trolls like crazy. So I was really surprised when it turned out that the podcast is extremely serious and makes a hell of a lot of sense because, man, if you follow his Twitter account, the rest of the time it doesn't. So... Shout out to Shubes, Cursive Benitez. It was a lot of fun being on the Cobcast, though. I'll post a link to the episode. I definitely encourage, we talk about a lot, and it's great because Shubes is a fantasy player like I am, has a ton of, like we are, has a ton of knowledge about a lot of different teams, and we talked about a bunch of stuff, everything from, mentioning Danny Valencia to Josh Hamilton, I think, or the Rangers. We went all over the league. A lot of Giants talk and a lot of other stuff. So it was a lot of fun. And of course, then he decides to come back and post things like, "I would like to say that the San Francisco Giants are a baseball team."
Yeah,
which we're going to have to look into. We'll have to see if they are in fact a baseball club. We may have to discredit him.
Maybe he medicates himself to tweet.
Maybe tweeting is his medication.
Maybe
could be. All right, let's roll on to our new favorite guy, and Cursive Benitez. David, you're great, but you don't count. So as far as our new favorite guys, let's start with some Giants players. So throw it at me. Who you got?
Taking the big fat softball, Melky.
Oh, man.
Why not?
Hey, you know what? I really feel like he's slimmed down a little. No, okay. Yeah, Melky's a good choice. But justify it anyway.
Keep picking him. No, I'm just kidding. No,
You're going to start a streak here.
Come on. The guy is just en fuego.
En fuego.
Yes.
Por supuesto, en fuego. And how. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Melky is having a heck of a year. So I'm all for taking Melky as a favorite guy. So I'm going to be a little more specific in that case, though. I have actually picked this guy as an honorary new favorite guy before. I'm going to go all in and actually pick him as my favorite guy today, and that is Shane Lukes, who is actually very quietly having a decent season as a middle to long reliever. Mm-hmm. He's kept the Giants competitive in games where they are otherwise being blown out like crazy people. And he right now I don't know if he pitched today. I don't believe he did. But in 7.1 innings, 2.45 ERA in 4 games. So he's had a lot of multi-inning outings, which is what we've called on him to do in a lot of cases, and he's performed admirably. His whip is a pretty respectable 1.091. Nothing great, nothing too bad. And his strikeouts, let's see. Oh, I don't have that.
He's only got 3.
3. So he's kind of what he did in reinventing himself as a reliever is he's not a strikeout guy, but he is a guy that will make it difficult for you to get anything useful off of him.
Right.
And so, I mean, his ERA plus is 150, which with 100 being league average, 150 out of a guy that sort of nobody really thought was guaranteed a call-up this year, I think he's actually done really well. And I think that Lukes, in my mind, is not the first guy for the chopping block whenever Brian Wilson gets back, or, with not Wilson, obviously, but any other pitcher comes off the DL. In my mind, Lukes is not the first guy on the chopping block.
Who do you think is?
I'd have to go with Ed Lifson.
Yeah.
Partly because there's plenty of service time left on his clock. Partly because he has, even though he's definitely had good outings, and I like Ed Lifson, I also feel like he's been the weakest out of the different pitchers that we've shown. So, I mean, we've got a stacked bullpen. So, I mean, really, like, if you're going to cut somebody, it kind of comes down to Lukes or Ed Lifson at this point. And right now, I'd have to say, because Ed Lifson is not a long relief guy. Mota is suspended, and we don't have another long relief guy right now. Right, I gotta lean Ed Lifson.
It's really interesting to see all the people who really wanted Hembree to come up and immediately, usurp the closer role, and a lot of us, a little bit more sane people, were like, "Hey, wait a minute, he's."
That's probably not going to happen.
Probably not going to happen. I mean, they got guys who can fill in the role just as good or better than Hembree, and so far, of course, Casilla has been, as good as we could have ever hoped for, better than we could have hoped for.
Pretty outstanding for a replacement closer.
Absolutely, and Hembree has been struggling big time. He's actually allowed 10 runs in his last 8 innings. His ERA is up to 4.45, and he has several blown saves, and this is in AAA. So, he's been struggling. And, I'm sorry, but if he's if he was having these same issues in the major leagues, it's got to be just as bad or worse as his results in AAA. So, clearly, I hate to be a naysayer to those few people who are out on that fringe, but keep on smoking.
Hembree is going to be a heck of a reliever. That does not mean he is currently prepared to be a heck of a reliever, although I think it's not going to be long. I think we see Hembree as early as September or next year.
Oh, I think
Probably September.
I think, if they do have a couple of key injuries, and depending where the Giants are in the standings, I mean, this year could have the rosters expand and easily could see him come up then, but not to be the closer.
I do think that Hembry is probably pretty high on the reliever depth chart at this point.
Yeah.
I think closer probably comes from somebody else we have guys on the bullpen who could close pretty much all over the place if it came to it. Hensley's been a closer. Romo could be a closer, especially the way that Romo's look now. Lopez could be a closer, mostly. Pretty much like half our bullpen or more could fill a closing role, and we probably wouldn't feel too bad about it. So it's kind of like this awkward sort of like, well, if Hembry were to come up, that wouldn't guarantee him the initial closer spot. It would guarantee him a relief spot, and probably a fairly frequently used one after a couple first outings, but not closer.
Nope.
Anyway.
All right, who are we going to hate?
Well, actually, before we hate, I did want to throw in, this is episode number 31. Yes. And since it's episode 31, you have to, besides Bam Bam Mullins, who currently wears 31 for the team, you got to mention Rob Nen.
Yeah.
I used to love Rob Nen because when I was first watching games more often with my mother, Rob Nen was a closer on that team. And the dude was just imposing. Like, he would come in and you just kind of sit there like, man, Rob Nen. Plus, he had a really catchy name, so when you were my age at the time, it was also really fun to be like, Rob Nen.
Rob Nen.
Nen. That's cool. He's got 2 B's in his name. That's crazy. But, it's like there aren't a ton of players that I remember from that era, although names will always spark different things. But, like, Nen always stood out as just one of those guys that really had – he was sort of – in a way, he was Wilson before Wilson was Wilson. He was a closer that was a huge deal on this team that everybody was like recognized as a household name because it was catchy, because he was good, because he was in a high leverage, high visibility role. But Nen was he was one of those guys that it was really difficult not to like, especially with the amount that in the end he ended up putting in for this team in such a huge way.
Oh yeah, going in a lot of ways. They're looking at it might be similar to what Wilson did too for that for that playoff run.
Yeah,
just giving that extra just to push him that last little bit, and might have been a little too much for the arm.
Maybe you're never quite recovering from it, which hopefully will not be the case for Brian Wilson. Knock on wood. Yeah. Dude is made of ridiculous stuff, but so is Nen, and it's a shame. But I feel like if you were going to go out that way, though, I feel like the way that Rob Nen went out is a shame for his arm. And, I wish there was a way that it could have been avoided and he could have come back and had an even longer career. But I almost feel like I'd rather it be that. I always feel really bad for guys like Dravecky or Matheny that had their career ended because of injuries and sort of never, like, Dravecky was great when he came back after, right before sort of that last gasp, but it was just kind of a shame that things sort of ended the way they did for Dravecky, who I think could have had a much longer career.
Yeah.
Or Matheny, who got his bell rung and just never quite made it back into playing ball. And, Nen makes for a better story. All of those guys, I think, have made great contributions, but, a guy like Nen who pretty much just gave his arm to the Giants, like, you can't disrespect something like that.
Right. So, no, absolutely.
Not to discredit Matheny or Dravecky. Like, I'm always going to respect both of them for what they've done, and also Matheny for what he's doing now in such a huge way. He's such a likable guy. But it's just like there's something that's very storybook. That's very that's got that like baseball manliness to it about Rob Nen. And I guess that's while you don't like a story that ends with a guy not coming back to baseball. I guess that as stories go, there's a lot to like about it.
Yeah, it would have been nice if it could have ended on that, that trophy, but
right.
He really did give it his all. And I'll always remember the little tap step on his delivery, which he said was actually used as a timing mechanism, which I found very intriguing.
Different guys have really interesting timing mechanisms, but that makes sense. Some guys like Josh Coleman always used to irritate me with his delivery, but it's what makes it work for him.
Yep.
Not that it's been working for him well, but that's beside the point.
No, not lately.
All right, let's hit on some dudes. You got sort of an obvious one besides Chris Coughlin, who I'm really hate on, but we're gonna pass over him and pick 2 other guys. So go for it.
So the man-child that is known as Giancarlo Stanton,
right?
The dude is only 22, and he's
artist
built
formerly
like
known as Mike.
Yeah, and he is built like a truck, man. Unbelievable. 12 of 25 against the Giants this year. That's a 480 clip with 4 bombs, 5 doubles, and 7 ribbies. So again, there always seems to be that guy on every team that has the Giants number. And as far as the Marlins are concerned, he is the man.
Stanton has kind of become the new Paul Goldschmidt, Scott Hairston.
Yes,
Willie
Scott
Bloomquist.
Hairston. Oh, God, that guy pisses me off.
Yeah, and Hairston just likes to float around NL West teams that aren't the Giants. It drives me crazy.
Yeah, he's pretty much been on every team, it seems like.
Yeah, every team that's going to get us at some point. Other than, well, I guess now he's a Met and all, but still. Oh, man. Scott Hairston. Anyway, I do want to hate on Scott Hairston, but I'm going to pass on that right now. And actually, I want to go ahead and hate on Steve Cishek. He's been very good, but he's been really good against us. He made us look absolutely ridiculous when the Marlins were playing here at AT&T Park, and boy, that was not pretty. And I just with Steve Cishek. Okay, so here's the thing. His last, let's say, 10 outings. Let's see. I believe he's pitched pretty frequently. Let's see. May 2nd, 2 hits, no runs. Mm-hmm. May 4th, 1 hit, no runs. May 9th, 2 hits, 1 earned run. May 12th, 2 hits, 1 earned run. May 14th, no hits, no runs. 16th, 3-0. 22nd, 0-0. Now then we come to us. Actually lets us have 2 runs, both unearned, and 2 hits in 1 inning pitched on May 24th.
Ugh.
No hits, no runs, none earned, 1 strikeout in 2/3 of an inning pitched May 25th. 2/3 of an inning on May 26th. No hits, no runs, no earned runs, and, well, no strikeouts. But just, we did get to him a bit on the 24th, but other than that, I mean, Cishek just seems like he's had our number.
Yeah, absolutely. The dude is sick.
Yeah, I mean, his ERA is up to a staggering 1.27 after being at 0.79 after facing us with a 2-inning outing that just made us look ridiculous. So
we own him now.
Right. That's ownage, as Kruk would say. I'm never going to have a Kruk voice, and that's fine. Anyway, so that's who I'm hating on for right now. I'm sure I could come up with some other guys. Coughlin I should have thought of earlier. But, I Miami, either you love them, you hate them, or you kind of and exist in this weird both space where you have extremely strong feelings about them in both directions. Because of the new park and the fact that I like some of the guys on the team, like Lomo or Stanton. I'm in this
but you know what really
kind of
confused the hell out of me? I was at at a mushroom festival yesterday in Morgan Hill, and we went to the sports bar for lunch, and I looked over the sports bar, and I was quite far away, so I could just barely kind of see the teams on the field, or at least their colors, and these bright orange jerseys were on the TV screen. Right. But I knew they were playing the Marlins, and I'm like, they don't have orange road jerseys.
Right.
And they got their Orange Friday at home, and I'm like, oh, right. Their whole new color scheme.
Why is Mark Burley wearing a Giants shawl?
Yeah.
Right.
That's very deceiving, by the way. I don't like that. Well, of course, it seems like the new teams with their newer color schemes, they can pretty much adopt almost any color from the rainbow because it's somewhere in their thread count.
When they're Miami, they do.
Well, it's the rainbow, right?
They've got like 4 different colors.
We got white, we got black, we got orange, we got blue, we got green. We got anything, man.
Sure. And then we got carnival dancers on,
Jose Reyes' arm, yeah.
Yeah. Or 2 on, I don't even remember who. It was Lomo? Somebody?
An aquarium right behind the back.
We have a right field.
Because that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, they say it's basically like stronger than bulletproof glass, and like it has to be, because I would not want to be sitting there after a Josh Johnson fastball.
No.
So I can't imagine the fish do. Anyway,
okay.
So that's some loving, that's some hating. That means that we get to our both easy and extremely difficult segment called Why We Will Win It All. So
we've already dwelled enough on him tonight, but Lincecum will return to form. Right?
Right? I mean, he's got to get better than he is, right?
Yeah. Hey, I figure if he pitches 500 the rest of the year, it's better than the 200 ball the Giants are playing for him right now. So
that's fair. I mean, if he can cut some of the big innings down to like 3-run innings, I'd say that this team suddenly is actually kind of competitive because they are scoring runs right now, which is strange but exciting.
Keep it going.
Yeah. Knock on iPad.
Polycarbonate structure.
Yeah. Still. I actually got to go with Gregor Blanco. That's my entire reason is Gregor Blanco, because he is a different kind of on fire. Melky is leaving like burn marks around the plate. Blanco is sort of leaving like black char streaks on the base paths. He's really fast. He is hitting and seeing the ball well enough to do well, and also he is really fast. Did I mention he's really fast, by the way?
No. Oh. You might have said he was above average speed, but
he's really fast. He's really fast, and
he's a fun player to watch.
Yeah,
and Boch is going to keep going with him until he hits a major.
He's going to have
dry
to.
Spell.
Blanco has won over the center field top of the lineup role. He's going to have to play himself out of it at this point. So Gregor Blanco, well played. We salute you.
Well played.
For fighting your way into a position that everybody out of spring training said that you may not be able to earn. And boy, do those people probably not feel silly right now, but they should.
No doubt.
All right. So that's why we're going to win it all. I'd say this we have a lot more good and optimistic reasons after the weeks that we've been having. I'm excited to see what we pull off next week, especially against the remainder of the games against our division rival Arizona, who have definitely seemed to have had our number. It's nice to bring them here to AT&T and see us do well against them.
Well, and we got 13 of our next 16 games at home, so hopefully that's going to bode well for a little bit of a surcharge in our win record here.
That's got to be. I mean, we always say Giants fans are the best fans in baseball, so make sure you're getting out there to the games and letting the team know that. Support them, watch them at home. And we like to say the same thing about our TortureCast fans. Thanks to Cursive Benitez and Brian Davis RFC for getting at us on Twitter and saying hi. You are always welcome to get in touch with us on @TortureCast, as well as our Facebook page, TortureCast, and our TortureCast.com website. Otherwise, if you want to get at us individually, you can talk to Chad K21, Chad over here, about everything from the Giants to Giants memories to children, because kids are hard, to what goes on in the aquariums that the Marlins have behind home plate. You can talk to me @Fried Duck about everything from baseball to soccer to electronics to traveling to really bad humor and ridiculous off-color jokes, because I'm all about those. Or you can also get at Willie Dills, our absent congratulations recent graduate Willie, about graduating, about Giants.
And now he's all grown up.
About things you do after graduating, like finding a job, which I would say he's done fairly well with, or about radios, or massive multiplayer online role-playing games, because he has got all kinds of ability to talk about that. Otherwise, though, keep supporting your Giants. We always want to hear from you. Get in touch with us. Otherwise, let's keep watching those games, because it's certainly been a lot more fun to watch them since they've been hitting. So we hope you enjoy them hitting, and we will see you next time here on the TortureCast.
A big thank you to everybody for listening to the TortureCast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. Follow us on Twitter @TortureCast. You can also like us on Facebook or check out our blog at torturecast.com. I also want to say thank you to Ashcon and Bailey for letting us use their song Feeling Like a Giant for our intro. For Ben Lee and Chad King, my name is Willie Dills, saying we'll see you next time.